Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. I want to talk to you today about what's going on over there in Eastern Europe. It's starting to heat up. It's been heating up for a while, and there's some new stuff today that I want to talk about and kind of how it relates to, I don't know, is it something we really need to be worried about with all this other stuff that's going on? It's like we just can't get a break anymore. Before I get that going, kind of a homesteading prepper tip. If you've been following the channel the last few days with the stuff that I've been talking about food chain stuff, supply chain, increased fertilizer costs, increased food costs, and of course the volcano and the potential effects of that. An idea that you might get, and you know, I've been talking about planting food. You guys we gotta start growing our own food, and we gotta grow a lot of it. I know a lot of you are really good at it. Some of you are just kind of, you know, learning and trying it out. But it's gonna get to a point, I believe, that it's gonna be really serious, that you really need to do it. So a suggestion is, and this is referring to your seeds and what you grow, is to make sure you have enough seeds for cold weather plants. There are certain plants that do just a lot better in cold weather. Now they're not going to do good in like the Arctic Circle, but they do pretty good when it's cold. As long as their ground isn't frozen solid, they'll grow and they'll produce. And just in case, because we're starting to get to that, you know, I'm not going to say we're at that point where we're you know, kind of like back in, what was it, 1816 with the year without a summer. I don't know that we're quite to that point yet. But I think that little needle is certainly inching much closer to the red line on that. So I think that a good plan, a good backup plan, is to have plenty of seeds to plant vegetables that do much better in cold weather. You know, a lot of your root vegetables do really good in cold weather. Your beets, your carrots, your turnips, leafy green stuff like kale and collard greens and spinaches, cabbages, broccoli, stuff like that. They do really good in colder weather. There's also certain plants that you can get that just only need a short growing season. And I would suggest doing some research. Basically look at the area that you already live in and what grows good there. And then maybe moving up a few growing zones north of you, and then look at what grows good there. So for instance, you know, we're in like a 6A, we're right on that 6A, 6B line. And what I would do is I would look at what would grow, say, maybe up in Minnesota real well. What would people be planting in their gardens up there? And I might keep enough of those seeds set aside just in case we get some more volcanoes blowing up and the grand solar minimum gets worse and worse. We might find ourselves in that place where what you're normally used to growing, because you would have a normal growing season, just doesn't work anymore. And so you need to alter your growing plans to plant stuff that's going to grow better in a colder or shorter growing season. And I think that's a really good backup plan to have, just in case, because, you know, think about it. You got all these seeds saved up, you got all these plans for gardening, and then well, things change and weather's a lot colder and the growing season's a lot less, and all the stuff that you've stocked up on to grow doesn't grow anymore. So I would certainly do that. That is a big part of our plan here. On some of those items we stock up a lot more and prep a lot more on those kind of seeds. All right, so let's get on with this Russia and Ukraine stuff. Now, you know, this has been going on for years. There was the 2014, most all of you are aware of, the little war between Russia and Ukraine. It hasn't really stopped. I mean, the war did, but the problems between the two nations haven't really stopped. And this has been building and building and building, and probably a lot of you have seen the videos leaked of, you know, troop deployments in and around the Ukrainian border, Russian moving tanks and trains filled with, you know, different types of equipment. There's already been this stalemate there on the border, and there's been a few shots fired, and there's actually been, you know, certain amount of people killed every year because it's just the, you know, what's going on there on the border. Well, the White House announced this morning that the chances of the Russia invading Ukraine are pretty good. That they feel it's almost imminent, and all the stuff that's been happening over the last few days, it does seem like that there's an even bigger buildup. Just a few days ago, Ukraine claimed that Russia did a cyber attack on their government computers. Most likely they did. Russia is very good at that. Then there was information coming out this morning that Russia is moving troops into Belarus and kind of a backdoor way into Ukraine, and there's some great concern with that. It just seems like it's one thing after another that's going on over there, and it's moving further away from the potential for peace. Looks like a potential for war. Now, I'm not going to get into the politics of this one because, man, I could probably make several videos on the politics of this one. There's a lot going on. The main focus is, for me and for this channel, is with all this going on, add to that everything else that's going on in the world and here in the United States, how is this going to affect us? I mean, is this war between Russia and Ukraine just going to happen? And, it sucks for those people over there, but for, most all of you that live here in the United States, it, doesn't affect us as much. I don't think that's going to be the case. This is more on the conspiracy theory, but I really don't think too far from the truth. You have to realize that there are some pretty shady ties between the current president and Ukraine. You all know about that. I mean, that's not a big surprise or a big shock or a big secret. A lot of people know that. So I think that's going to be a big factor into this. The White House has already said, the Secretary of State have already said that we as the United States are prepared to defend Ukraine. Now, how much so? Are we talking troops on the ground? Are we talking military actions? Or are we just talking financial and supplying of equipment? They've not been real clear on that, but they've definitely made it clear that if Russia invaded Ukraine, that we would certainly come to Ukraine's aid in some way. There's certainly a lot going on here. You also have to figure that our economy here in the United States, as well as most of the world, is a frail economy. I mean, it's crumbling. And one of the greatest and best things to help boost an economy really quickly is war. So it just seems it's common sense that a country would want to go to war, as they watch their economy fall apart and crumble. So there's one other thing there. Excuse me. The other thing is there's just a lot going on here in the home front. Bad polling numbers. A lot of people are starting to realize the whole health crisis thing isn't quite what they've been told for the last 2 years. A lot of people finding out the hard way that the things they're putting in their body, it may not be quite what they were told. And so a war, even if it's a proxy war with Russia, would take a lot of distraction away from all of that kind of stuff. So as much as so many people are saying we're not going to go to war with Russia, and we may not, I think that we will be involved much more than we already are with what's going on over there. And I think that's going to affect us here. It'll be a big distraction so that things can happen here, and a lot of people will forget about it. They won't notice it. The news media won't cover it because they got other things to talk about. And that's always kind of a bad thing, because as much as a lot of people are saying, oh, the narrative is crumbling, people are starting to wake up and realize the narrative's crumbling. Do you think they're just gonna walk away from it and say, okay, you guys win. What we wanted to do for the last 2 years isn't working. Our plans for global reset, it's just not working. So, we give in. You guys can have back your freedoms. Do you think they're gonna do that? No, not at all. So they might need a distraction, and a war like this could certainly be a good distraction to kind of implement new things. There's also the worry that this could lead to a major world war of biblical levels, and I think that there is a possibility of that. I'm not saying that it will happen, but I do think that there's a strong possibility. over the next few days, I think a lot will be determined of what's going on. According to the White House, like I said, I mean, they're saying they believe, and of course we can't ever believe what the White House says, but if you just take it on face value, they're saying that Russia could invade at any moment. Any moment, you know, maybe before I get this video uploaded, they could have invaded Ukraine. And the stock market in Russia is not doing too good. I looked just before I started making this video. Stock exchange in Russia is down like 6.5%, 6.5–7%. Not doing too good there. So I do believe that there's things that are heating up even more. You know, Russia has, you know, said that they might just move some nuclear warheads down into Cuba or Venezuela if America doesn't back down, and if Ukraine gets, you know, accepted into the United Nations, into NATO. NATO, I think, is helping Ukraine out already when it comes to internet security, cyber security type stuff. So there's just a lot of saber rattling going on there. And I think with all the stuff that's going on when it comes to the supplies and the polling numbers and crumbling narratives here back home, I think we have a government that's going to be I don't know, more encouraged to get involved in something like that with Russia, because it would make them look strong. You also have to realize that there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of ego going on. There always is when it comes to politics. And the previous president, Trump, the left, the Democrats, tried to paint it that he was just, you know, in bed with the Russians. And now we have a chance to kind of go toe-to-toe with the Russians with the new president. And I think he's going to try to prove himself that, see, I'm not like the previous president. I'm not backing down to them. That is just personal commentary and may not be true at all, but it's a very possible thing. So folks, continue to get prepared. Back to the food issue and stuff, it's serious. I think it's very serious. I saw something today, a farmer was showing what they paid last year for fertilizers and stuff for their farm, you know, big farm, and then what they're going to pay this year, and it was double. They're paying double for all that kind of stuff. And the prices will continue to go up the way they're looking. So food prices are just going to continue to skyrocket. The scarcity of food is going to get worse as the weather starts to continues to change. And if we get a few more volcanic eruptions like this past one that we had, it could be some major events happening. So folks, continue to get your house in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you all for watching. Catch you in the next video.